We're going back to the First Law universe in this book 4 of the First Law. No, but it's the second book of the next trilogy in the First Law world, and that is Best Served Cold. So, hello, my name is Zach, and on this channel, it's mostly science fiction and fantasy reviews, but yes, I do delve into everything else from comics to manga and everything in between. So today I'm talking about Joe Abercrombie's second trilogy, the first book in the next book of the First Law universe, which is Best Served Cold. So after the first trilogy, which I kind of have mixed reviews on, because the first book, First Law, I was so on. I finished it, but then took a long, almost year-long break before giving the series another try after The Devils, which love The Devils. But book 2 and then book 3 of the original First Law trilogy, amazing. I loved how the trilogy as a whole ended once you kind of pushed through the first book. So I was excited to put the fourth book, the next in the series, Best Served Cold, in my TBR. So I got the library hold, queued it up, and really mixed reviews on this one as well, because there's some aspects I liked, and depending on what kind of fantasy reader you are, you're either going to love it or hate the new direction. So I think that's the biggest thing with me on the direction the series is going. So the first book of the Blade itself, the first book of the trilogy, you kind of get hints of the world. It's kind of like a pseudo fantasy world in the sense that there is a little bit of magic, but with Abercrombie's writing, yes, characters are definitely the focus, but you have this Logan Ninefingers, who has this kind of blood rage connection to spirits. You have Baez, the first of the Magi, obviously then kind of like a Gandalf-ish character. But so there's magic in the world, but kind of like a Lord of the Rings, low stakes. And then throughout the series, through the second book, we're, in broad strokes, it's a journey to find this magical object. And during the journey, Baez and others recount kind of the history of the world. And you learn, again, in kind of a Tolkien-esque way, that there was gods fighting. One god sealed the other god. So there is kind of like another side. And that's what the First Law is. How First Law is about not touching the dark side of power. So the series always had this undercurrent of magic in kind of like a hidden way, but definitely a backseat to the character work and just the larger story of the characters, like Glokta, the torturer. It doesn't use magic, but Logan has like connection to magic, and with Baez being a mage himself, this Gandalf-like character uses magic, but not like prominently magic battles. This is not fireballs slinging at each other, even though there are some magical things that happen through the series. But why I'm talking about this is because this is what I maybe didn't like personally, because now in this second trilogy, it's kind of the age of men. I think it's the age of madness, but it feels that way. Again, to use a Tolkien analogy, that by the end of the Lord of the Rings, magic is leaving the world, the elves are departing, and it's really entering the age of men, right? The age of magic with Sauron and wizards are going by the wayside, and mankind is rising up. And that's where I feel what here is happening. And the characters outright say it throughout the story, that they talk about science versus magic and how science can be magic. And sometimes, there's funny quips of science was better or magic was better. So magic is really taking the back seat. I don't think there's any magical events that happen in this book at all. It's all like science-based, which is how the world is shifting. Because this takes place in the same universe, the world is shifting away from magic, where they're poisoners. There's like grafting technology, because one of our characters, the main character, Monza, she's disfigured in a battle, and then she kind of receives grafts to piece her body back together. So she's repaired, but again through science, through kind of like medieval ways of fixing body parts and limbs, but not through magic. It's all through science. And so that is like the shift in tone of the series. So with that, I would give it less marks, because I enjoy that other realm, that hidden world of magic in my fantasy stories. And this book is clearly going to the human mankind is ruling things. That said, what kept me going is the characters. So Joe Abercrombie's writing was top notch in this book again. While the plot, it's a very kind of typical revenge plot, almost like a Kill Bill, where our main character is also female, like in Kill Bill. She is, loses kind of a battle, and then she goes on a revenge quest to take revenge on the people that almost killed her, even though as she's kind of again resurrected or repaired through science, and she assembles a team, and then her goal is to kill the 7 people that wronged her in the first place. But throughout the story, which is very linear, as in the sense of kill one guy, kill the next guy, now we're on to the next guy, until all 7 are done by the end of the novel. The writing, the characters were so great. So many times as I was listening to this, I was literally laughing out loud. I'd be walking as I listened to the audiobook and just bawling out, stopping and like just laughing at the interactions between the characters. The characters are so great. They're so lovable. My favorites are, just to call out, I love Day. Day is the assistant to the poisoner. And so anytime the poisoner would, say something, Day would, his assistant would kind of chime in with this like kind of like smart aleck response to contradict him, or, just to really ground his grandiose speeches sometimes. It was hilarious. And then my second maybe favorite character besides Day is Friendly. Friendly is kind of like obsessed with numbers, and he makes these observations that are just off the cuff, so appropriate to the character, and they don't really pull you out of the story because it's relevant for the character. It all makes sense, but they're just these quips that break the tension, and it's so funny. It's so great. Like, not that this is a comedy by any means, because it's a very vivid. The battle's bloody, things are flying everywhere, but when certain characters are in a scene, it's going to help break the tension. The writing is great. It just all fits the world. It fits the tone. It fits the characters. It never feels out of place. So the writing was, top notch. I have to give the book kudos for that. Even though, yes, there's elements of the overall plot. Again, I didn't really love that it's just kind of like the story, straightforward revenge story. But the fact that it happens in the same First Law universe, the names, you kind of know the players of the Union, and the different factions that are fighting in a larger sense. You have Shivers, who is great. He was like a side character in the First Law, the original trilogy, and now he's one of the main characters. And you have Monza, you have Nikomo Casca. All the characters are just fun in their own way. So if you liked character work in the First Law or the Devils, I love the characters in the Devils, but I also love the Devils more because it leaned into the magic side more. So I think that's where you're either going to love and hate this, depending on what and why people love or hate the Devils, because now that I'm kind of seeing how Abercrombie's writing is maybe going on this less magical, and then the Devils was a return to magic, which I loved. So I highly recommend the Devils. If you recently read this yourself and you're also like me, like, I kind of wish he stayed magical, go read the Devils, because the Devils is everything as Joe's writing improves book to book. It's amazing character work, but also it has magic. There's werewolves and vampires and elves and magicians, not magicians, but wizards and mages. It's great. I love the Devils because it's that combination of the characters and the magic was great. But if you thought maybe the magic was less so and you're like more character driven work, like maybe like a Robin Hobb's Assassin's Apprentice, then I think, yes, you're going to really enjoy this next series of the First Law universe, because that is the path that this book is taking, more character driven, but with this excellent character work. So it's very interesting. The battle, and that's the other thing I liked about his writing for the battles. The way he describes it is kind of like from the POV of one character. So even though like a fight is happening, instead of describing like, then this guy swings his sword, then that guy swings his sword. The one scene that's vivid in my mind is like Monza's fighting, and it's describing just how she is reacting to the battle, and it was very immersive. I really enjoyed the way he described the fighting, and it's her like twisting under the water and fighting, so you can see what's happening, but it's all from her point of view, and it was really well done, the battle scenes. So the writing is just excellent. I see clearly why Abercrombie's such a celebrated writer. It's really great fantasy writing, and it's a fun story. It's an easy read. There's not tons of stuff to take into account like a Malazan book or Wheel of Time, where it's super epic fantasy of large scale. You're following that distinct kind of set of characters, and you bounce back and forth between one character and the other, but you're generally following the same core group throughout the whole story and seeing what happens with them. So That's kind of this mixed review. So you're either going to love it or hate it, I think, the next direction. But because again, the less fantasy, I put it on the slightly less side for me personally, but you may like it because, yeah, the character work and the action is excellent. But I just want a little more magic in my stories. I want a little more fantasy in my fantasy. I like that escapism. So that's my review. And thanks for watching this review of Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. Do check out the channel wherever it's going to appear for another book that YouTube is going to suggest if you're interested in my thoughts on other sci-fi fantasy books. So thanks for watching and have a great day.